Hi and welcome to everyone who's watching this video today. And I have the great pleasure to introduce you to the lovely, also Swedish, Anna Lovind, who is a writer, an editor, and a mentor for creative entrepreneurs, all sorts of creative people. And if you've been a bit online and you've seen her Instagram account or Facebook page, she writes beautifully and has a really deep connection to nature and everything that surrounds her. So hi and welcome, Anna.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's so lovely to meet you again. And it's kind of funny because we're both Swedish and we had a conversation not too long ago.
Yeah.
And we're mostly used to seeing you writing and sharing your beautiful images. And so it's really nice to kind of see you on video for, well, not for once, but
yeah, for a change.
Exactly. So I'd love for you to share a bit more about like the work that you do and I guess the vision you have for your work, why you do what you do.
Oh, why I do what I do. Well, let's start with what I do. It's well, like you said, I'm a writer. That's the first and foremost thing I identify as in my professional life, and maybe even in my life in general. Actually, I'm a writing person. That's what I do. That's how I understand the world and how I express myself primarily. And but I'm a mother, and I'm a mentor of creative women primarily, creatives of all disciplines, really, entrepreneurs, painters, writers, anyone who has a desire to go from dreaming to doing with their particular expression. And that is my passion to do so. I do so through mentoring and also through online courses and so on. But the why behind it is, I think, that is such a complex question, because there is the why as in creativity is my passion. It's what I know the most about. I've been working in this field in one way or the other all my professional life, almost, starting as an editor and working with writers and so on. And later on I've expanded into this more general take on creativity that includes, well, basically everyone, because I do believe that everyone is creative one way or the other. And so there's that, and then there's also that aspect that is so simple, really, that is only about me. This is the work that lights me up, simply. Writing about these things and speaking to people about these things and sharing what I know and what I've learned this far and what I am learning continually, because this is very much my journey. That is just what comes most naturally to me. It's what feels easy and right and true for me to do. So the why is sure, it has to do with other people, because I do feel that I can contribute through the work that I'm doing. But it's also about just sort of settling into me and why I'm here in this life, and what seems to be the sort of the place where my joy and my contribution meets, because that's the intersection that I want to zoom in on and spend the most time possible. So yeah.
Yeah.
Why is a big question, but yeah, that's a few aspects of it.
Yeah, that's really beautiful, and it's true that it can be quite complex and simple at the same time. And I think it always has to do with us and also with others, because we're interacting with other people. But it has to be something that's really close to our heart, or I don't know, there's something that just doesn't resonate. And even online, because we both work quite a bit online as well. It's you can
yeah.
feel that, right, when someone has a really deep connection with what they do.
Definitely.
It doesn't have
Yes.
to be so fancy, but you can feel that energy. And if it's not there, there's something that feels a bit empty.
Yeah, yeah. And also, I mean, there are plenty of people who do business from a perspective of, identifying sort of a gap in the market or something like that. And figuring out how can I fill that gap, and what can I do, or what can I produce that would satisfy that need. And then they build a thriving business out of that, which is, I mean, that's perfectly fine. That's equally creative. It's just another way in, so to speak. That has never been possible for me, really. It doesn't work like that for me. It has to sort of come from the inside, and then sort of grow and expand and find its place in the world organically. Like, this is what I have to offer. Does it resonate with someone? And if it does, they will show up to meet it, and from there something will grow. So that's sort of two different ways of approaching business, I think, and both are perfectly fine. It's just that it's different kinds of people. For me, it has taken quite a while to realize that is how it has to be for me. I can't go. I can't do it the other way. Being savvy and strategic like that. It would be nice sometimes. That's like, wow. I mean, that's maybe sometimes that's a quicker path.
Yeah, and I love how you seem to really honor your own needs and be like, okay, this is what I need. This is what I can and can't do. And I'm crafting my business around that instead of trying to fit in. And also the way you describe how you do business is it requires a lot of trusting, doesn't it? Because you need to be completely trusting that what I offer is, really valuable, and the right people will show up. I don't have to get them. It doesn't have to be so hard, but I have to fully immerse myself in my art and present it in a clear way so people can find me. Yeah. That's it. And then you kind of let go and surrender to that.
Yeah, and there are absolutely no guarantees before you start that anyone actually will show up. I mean, there are never any guarantees for anything, but doing business this way, it's all about trust. And also practically the knowledge about fear and the ability to meet and deal with fear as you move along, because fear will be your companion when you choose to do business like this. Or actually, it is your companion, whatever you choose to do that you have not done before. And that requires some level of vulnerability from you. And that requires you to show yourself and become visible in one way or the other. So fear, knowing about fear and knowing how to deal with fear is one of the most important skills that I've had to learn, and that I also do my best to guide others to deal with. Because it's about trust. But trust is only required because there's fear present. Yes. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a big deal.
No.
The trust is in that, okay, so I'm afraid and I don't know how to do this, and there is no map of this terrain before me, but okay, so I will trust that if I take this first step, I will see the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one, and that my needs will be met, and that I am held in this big scary thing that my dream represents when you get a little bit closer.
Yeah, I love how you describe that, because that's exactly it. And I feel like every time we're asked to stretch a bit more, there's the fear of, what if it doesn't work? But then I guess the more we do it, the more we know that I've done this before, and I came through it, and there was a lot of magic on the other side of that big step. But you still never know if the next one's going to do that again, because it's always different, isn't it?
Yeah. And not everything we do succeed. It's as simple as that. We
Yeah.
try things and not everything works out the way we thought they would or the way we plan. And in hindsight, you always see that, okay, well, that was for the better.
Mm.
Because that led me to this, and that led me to reconsider this, and then I took another direction that led me where I needed to go. But in the moment when you realize something is sort of failing, not working out, that is not the perspective you have in that moment. So again, it requires so much trust.
Yeah, it does. And so how would you say that you use your intuition or inner guidance, or however you feel that you're being guided in your business, not just in when you create, because I think that every time we create something, we're in the flow and we're receiving, but also in the business side of it, like, creating programs. I know you've created a beautiful program, beautiful video, and also like when you share on social media and when you write for your blog and guest posts, and like how do you weave your intuition into that, or how does that look for you?
Well, it looks more and more like simplicity. Simplicity in the sense that I do less and less. But what I do 100%. It's like I immerse myself more and more in fewer and fewer things, so that those few things that I give my time and energy to can really thrive, as opposed to trying to do everything and spreading myself thin and just everything ending up sort of half-assed. And in order to come to that place of simplicity, I need to trust my intuition fully, because I mean, saying yes to everything is kind of easy, actually, until you have to actually carry out everything you've said yes to, and you realize you don't have time or energy for it. But the actual saying yes is kind of easy. It is, we don't upset anyone, or we don't have to challenge ourselves and our impulses and so on. But saying no and being selective about where you put your energy and what you really go for, that takes a whole different kind of work. And a big part of that work is learning how to listen to yourself, how to tune in and really get the information that is there about this decision and that choice. And okay, so I have these 3 options, but I can only go for one. Which one is it? And you can go about that choice in so many different ways. And most of us go about it thinking through it. We'd make lists, here's the pros and the cons of that choice. And I see other people doing it like that. So maybe, and they get these results. So maybe that's a good idea. Or you sort of try to strategize and figure out where these different paths are going to take you. But the truth of it is that we can only guess. I mean, we can make qualified guesses, but it's only guesses. And the only way I've found that is reliable is to never mind all those guesses, never mind that strategy and what other people are up to. The only thing that I find is consistently trustworthy is the way I feel in my body when I consider these different choices, when I consider if it's a yes or a no to a person, to an opportunity, to a business venture or whatever. this that I need to make a decision about. Is the only reliable information I have is the feeling I have in my body when I consider it. Is it light? Is it like a yes? Is it like a little bit scary, but even more tempting? Like it's really pulling you in? Or is it more like, yeah, that would be a really good idea. I really should be heading down that road, because that's at the end of that road I believe success is, and so on. The shoulds is a very good sign that you're not in tune with your intuition. So, I mean, it's easy in a sense that, yes, I always have my body is always here. This tool is always here, and I can always, I can connect anytime with it, and I can get that information if I learn to listen. And you learn to listen by doing it repeatedly and trusting the information. So, but still, it's not black and white. It's not like you get it in writing or anything. It's still that element of trust. That, okay, I have this feeling. Even though everything is pointing in that direction, my feeling is telling me that this is the right direction. So ultimately, again, we're back to trust. Intuition can be like fine-tuned. It can be strengthened and honed into a really specific skill if you use it consistently, and if you learn to trust it and do so repeatedly. But it's still always that moment of trust when you need to decide if you're going to listen or not. And that is sort of that's the fork in the road, you know. If you do trust, you take that path, and if you're not, well, life's going to show you should have. You will take the long way around. That's basically all.
Yeah, and it definitely takes a lot of courage, I find, because there are moments like that when all you have is the faith that this feels right. I don't know why. I don't know how. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I feel inside me. And sometimes it's just a whisper, isn't it? It's not always the huge yes. It can just be that soft yes, and that's all you have to kind of move forward. So it's it's kind of a crazy path, I feel, sometimes putting ourselves through this.
It is. Oh, Jesus, can I just get a regular job? But obviously I could, and I don't recommend anyone else to do it either, because yes, it's crazy and scary and everything, but it's like, it's holy too. It's like, yes, everything is in here. Through that trust, I get access to everything, that deep kind of creativity that I so crave in my life, and the kind of connection to other people that are also choosing this path is so invaluable. And getting to be seen for who you truly are, and building your tribe or your business from there, that's worth anything, I think. And then if worldly success follows, then, well, jackpot.
And if not, it's still worth it, isn't it? Because there's so rewarding when you're on the inside. I find just that the expansion that we experience. I have moments like that when I'm just so blissed out in the simple, just simply by doing what I do and being where I am now, that I feel like the rest, success and all those things, would just be a bonus. And if none of that happens, this is still worth it. Which is really different from when you're always striving to get to a certain point before you can enjoy your life. Because then it's like you're always striving, and it seems like those goals, well, either you get to them and it never feels like it's enough because it's outside yourself somehow, or there's the next one and that sense of, running and never ever getting to where you want to go, because maybe you don't even know where you want to go. So I guess there's also a cost to not listening to your intuition and not following your path, because it's true that being seen for who you are, there's something really Oh, there's so much love in that, and like that deep soul connection when you've shared who you are and someone says, wow, that really resonates and this is who I am, and you meet in that place.
Right.
Compared to when you don't listen to your intuition and you don't follow the call, and it feels like you become smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
It feels like you don't exist anymore.
I mean, the cost is basically you don't get a life that is your own. You don't get to live your life. You get to live in the pale image of someone else's version of life or version of success or meaning or and I mean, that's a heavy cost. So even though this is not a simple path, and it might not be the path for everyone, it's still, I don't think we should take it lightly what happens when we don't follow our intuition, because that is sort of an epidemic really in our world today, because we're certainly not taught how to follow our intuition, or that it's even a good idea to do so. That is, for most of us, it's something we have to relearn as adults when we realize that, okay, the advice I was given as a teenager or in school or career advice and so on, it was not actually taking me where I really wanted to go. It was taking me to some place that resembled success, but it didn't feel like success because it wasn't my success. It wasn't my path. So what this really is about at the core is choosing my own life, my own version of life. And that is a trial and error process, because no one else has lived this particular life before.
No.
It's mine to discover and live as best as I can. And yeah, intuition is a crucial tool for doing so.
Yeah, and it just involves something a lot more holistic, because that means you're listening to your body, you're listening to your emotions, you're being really just paying attention to what's really going on instead of just doing all the time, because you can so easily get caught up in that.
Yes.
And then we head off somewhere and we go, where am I now? Instead of checking in and seeing if all of us is actually okay with that, and if we're really on board. Which I think is so important too, to actually hear that call. And often it involves slowing down, because when you're too busy and you're moving all the time, really hard to meditate while you're doing 1,000 things, right?
Yeah, definitely. Slowing down and simplifying, it's basically my religion these days. It's so important. I mean, it's because the thing is, choosing to start your own business, for instance, like we've done and like many of your people dream of doing, it's not like that in itself is a guarantee for you to be walking like your soul's purpose, or to be happy while you do it. Because when you make that decision and when you enter into that journey, you also bring with you all the patterns that have played out before in your life and in your work, and all the things that you wanted to escape from in your previous line of work, you bring with you. And those things you need to make conscious decisions about, or you will just be striving and pushing only in a new sort of more it might be a more meaningful work. And it might be the work that you actually love, but when you bring all that striving and pushing and all those old patterns of behavior into it, you will pretty soon lose that love. And you will soon lose the reason why you wanted to do this in the first place. Because, like you say, it's not only about the actual work or the goals that we want to reach, making this business successful and so on. It has everything to do with how it feels while we're doing it. Yes. And if you're busy striving all the time to get to that place in the future where you are going to be allowed to relax, where you are going to be allowed to celebrate, and where you will finally feel like you're enough and you're worthy and all of that.
Mm.
That is the life you're going to have, a life of striving, a life of trying to get there.
Mm.
And that won't be that much difference, you know, from striving in cubicle nation or whatever you were doing before. So it's, yes, it's about zooming in on your dream and knowing what you really want and what your heart's work really is. But even more so, it's about how you go about it, how you build that business in a way that it suits you and your life, and how you allow yourself to go at a pace that actually allows you to listen to yourself while you're moving and while you're expanding and while you're building. And so slowing down is it's key, and continually simplifying so that there is space enough for you to stop every now and then and reevaluate and sort of check in. Am I still moving in that direction that I wanted to go? Is this the dream that I had before I started? Is this the way I wanted it to be? And if not, what can I change? And so that there's always space for that kind of reflection and fine-tuning. Because that's part of it. Even though we have a clear dream in the beginning, we are still going to have to tweak and make some changes and then course correct during the way, because things change and we learn and we change. So
yeah, that's a great point, because that's the thing I find sometimes, even having our own business, although it can feel fun and exciting when we first start, if things don't flow the way we want them to and we're pushing and striving too much, it can actually be worse, I find, than having a real job, because the work is endless if we say yes to everything and we start running faster, getting up earlier, working later. And because it feels like we're doing this for our dream, we can so easily get even more obsessed with it, and then we can end up working more for less money and then it's definitely not fun anymore. And that is one of the reasons why I created my program. And I assume maybe one of the reasons why you created your program too, is to kind of come back to that, use your intuition and use the energy skills and the inner stuff so that you can build your business from the inside out, instead of trying to make yourself fit into a traditional marketing business thing, because usually that's not quite for people like us. I think we can use some of it, but it has to fit what we're looking for, because if we don't want to work like 80 hours a week and do nothing else but work, then we need to find a different way. And it's so interesting that you said about, slowing down and simplifying, because usually we feel like we need to do more and work harder to get more results. But I find that every time I do that, I just get so tired and there's no energy in what I do. And people, it's like they can't see you because you're not actually there. You're just running. And the more focused we can be, the more energy we can put into those things that really matter, instead of trying to do everything. But it's a different skill. And I find that as creative people, because we have lots of ideas, and that's a really kind of bubbly, fun energy to be in. So that actually taking that idea and grounding it and putting it into like a plan or something and making it reality, it's a different kind of energy, and it's a different kind of work, I guess. And I know for some people it's a bit like, oh no, I don't want to do that. I just want to have ideas, play with them, and then it requires other things, right, to really ground that and to make it, and then to do it maybe for a little bit longer than just the kind of burst of I have a new product or service and boom, it's gone, which I think is an interesting challenge to kind of stay with that. And it's like a different commitment too, isn't it?
It is. And a different set of skills that I find many creative dreamers want to skip. Because like you say, it's so much more joyful to remain in that dreamy state where your vision is still sort of glittery and sparkling, everything looks perfect, and you see yourself in that dream, and it's all like you're already there. And then there's the fact that dream is out here and you're here, and there's this gap that you need to bridge.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, so many people never get beyond that stage where they just envision what they want, because that is easy and joyful, and it's not scary at all because you haven't actually done any work yet.
No.
So then there's that friction that comes from, like you say, grounding the dream, deciding that yes, this of all these hundreds of ideas that are whirling around and that I sort of are birthed in me every day as a creative, that's usually the case. We never have a lack of ideas.
No.
But choosing this one and committing to it, this is the one I'm going to make happen, and just committing to taking the actual steps from where I am today to the place of that vision, the thing that I see in my mind's eye when I dream about it, and taking those 1,000 steps, remaining in the actual world.
Yeah.
Because this is where it happens. Yes, imagination is a beautiful thing, but this, the flesh and blood world, is where we make it happen, is where we move that vision into form. And that takes anyone who's given birth to a baby know that it's a messy process. There's blood involved, screaming. But in the end, something is born and it's worth it. And then it's to take it from dreaming to doing, or from vision to form. It requires a certain set of practical skills. And it requires knowledge about these inner work that we've been talking about now, the intuition and the being clear about your why and so on. But it also requires a number of practical skills, like learning how to say no, learning how to manage your time one way or the other, so that there is space, physical space, for this actual work to happen. Learning how to deal with whatever is involved in your particular business, technicalities, marketing, and sales, and so on, and learning about what channel suits your particular expression. And do I want a website? Do I want to blog? Do I want to make videos? Do I want to sing? And with each and every one of those decisions, there comes a whole list of things that you need to learn in order to do it.
Yeah.
And that is true every step of the way. Whenever you want to expand your business, or whenever you take it to the next level, and that is what happens. Okay, so there's a new list of things that I need to learn. And there's also the inner work that comes with it, that you need to expand to become the person who can actually hold that new, bigger vision, and so on.
Yeah.
So there's practical work, and then there's inner work, and there's energy work. It's both and. And it has to be both. You can't ignore one or the other, because it's not going to be sustainable if you do.
Yeah. And then if you want your business to really thrive and you to be happy on the inside of it, it's so important, because that's the foundation of everything, and you can grow from there. But if you kind of ignore one part, I think it can work for a while, but not very long, right?
No, exactly. It's like, if you ignore the inner work, your work and your business is not going to feel like yours. You're very likely to burn out pretty soon. But if you ignore the outer work, your dream is probably not going to take off, because it lacks structure, it lacks stability, and so on. So there's both. And there's that dance and balance between those two that is really interesting, I think, about this work.
It is. And I think it's really fascinating how sometimes we think that we're good. So I'm creative, I'm good at this, and I don't know how to do these things. And as if that defines us. But that's just our starting point. And I think anyone can learn anything. And if it's something that we really can't bear doing, then we can always find someone who's good at it and work with them. But it's like we have infinite possibilities, and there's nothing that we can't do if that's part of our dream and we want to learn it or need to learn it in order to grow. And that's great, because that's how we also expand, I guess, who we are and what we believe is possible for us and for others, which I think is really interesting. And I find that the more I can ground my dreams, the more powerful I feel, because when they're just kind of floating around, although it's a nice feeling, there's also that feeling of not completing things because you can't share something that's just in your head. And once it's out in the world, you can share it with other people. And
exactly.
See kind of what happens. And then it's kind of like a baby. It's like it doesn't belong to you anymore.
Yeah, and that's the most amazing thing, I think, about actually daring to go into that creation phase and giving birth phase, is that it's not just you. It's really life wanting to come through you.
Yeah.
And adding its powers to yours, so that you're not actually working alone, laboring alone. It's a co-creation process, and you never get to experience that if you don't dare to sort of move from that dreamy vision state. It only happens when you commit to the actual work, to the hard work sometimes of making it a reality. And then that magic happens, the synchronicities and the all that stuff that goes into what I call successful creative work, and being a successful entrepreneur as well. So I mean, so much comes from that commitment. Things that we cannot know before we've made it, things that we cannot foresee, or that even if we hear other people talk about it, we don't really know what it is about until we're actually there doing the work. So yeah.
Yeah, that's the magic in it. I find that every time it's like that never gets boring or like a routine. It's every time it's like, wow, I can't believe this is all flowing. And then it feels like you're not doing anything. It's just coming to you beautifully. And there's so much that sense of spaciousness where it feels like time just expands and things are coming to you with so much ease. Well, there is all the work before and there's stuff after, but it's still an incredible flow that is so amazing. Because I kind of discovered that, I guess, by chance as I was working, and I thought, wait a minute, it's so interesting. Every time I feel really great and I'm taking time for myself, I feel so much more creative and things are flowing in my business and people find me. I don't even know how. And then I would fall out of it because I'd try and do a bit too much. And I was like, oh, it's not doing that anymore. I want more of that. And how can I bring more of that into my work? And then slowly it becomes like a way of life, and just unlearning the old ways of doing until this kind of being in the flow and doing things consciously becomes the normal. And then when we're out of flow, we sense it right away and we go, wait a minute, something's not quite right. And then we kind of we can bring ourselves back again. And that is really amazing, I find. And it's so worth it, because when we first start out, I think it can be hard to find your way, and we don't always know anyone who can kind of support us in that as well, until we start, finding and meeting new people, and then we go, oh, actually there's a world of people doing business in their own way, and that's just so magical. And so on your business journey, have you been like, are there any programs or teachers or any things that you've learned along the way that were like really important for your path, that really changed something for you?
Well, different teachers and programs for these different skills that I mentioned, the outer practical skills and then the inner energy work. On the practical level, I did B School, Marie Forleo's B School, a few years back, and it was invaluable for me to get started, to get some practical know-how. about, I mean, where to begin. And okay, so this is the first step, and then this, and then this. Okay, so good. Made it easier to deal with the overwhelm and the fear that can come with starting a business from scratch. But then I also noticed that just following that blueprint was not enough for me to create the kind of business that I wanted, that resembled me and the life I dreamed of.
Mm.
So there was a lot of learning there, but then there was also a process of unlearning the things that were not applicable to me, that were not true to me, and that actually did not fit me or my temperament or the actual work that I was doing. So to come to the point where I can take what is relevant to me and then leave the rest. That was a process for me, but it's really important to allow yourself to do that. But then on the other end of the spectrum, so to speak, I learned a lot from Hiro Boga, which I know you've worked with as well, about tending your business on the inside and growing it from the inside out, and very much about that co-creation process that I mentioned just now, that actually creating a business and a work that you love is not just about me figuring things out. It is about me stepping into a relationship with this dream, life really, and making something beautiful happen through me. And that perspective, shifting into that perspective, has been really important for me. Because I've always been like, I've been a striver always, and I always felt like everything is up to me, everything, I sort of carry the world on my shoulders, and if anything is going to happen at all, I have to do it myself. And that energy can be quite heavy. So shifting into this perspective of actually, no, I'm co-creating here. And I am supported in this, and there is not just my powers, human powers, but actually the whole powers and the creative powers of the universe is in this. That has made a huge difference for me in how I feel about the work, and also how I practically go about it, to sort of integrate those teachings and practices into my daily business life. But then, I mean, as always, there are innumerable influences along the way. There's so many people who has inspired me in different ways, but those are two good examples of, of each end of that spectrum.
And then having like the pure business strategic and the how to do certain things to build your business, and then the energy work and everything that's underneath and behind that can be really helpful for creatives and intuitives, right? Because it's like we need both, and then finding the perfect blend that really fits us. I loved doing Hiro's work. It's just so profound, and it seems to amplify over time, and you can just keep nurturing it, and it keeps growing, which is so amazing. It's like you don't really go out of it, because it just keeps expanding, and that sense of not being alone in everything we do, because as entrepreneurs sometimes we can feel a bit alone, or comparing ourselves to others, and this is really like tapping into infinite amounts of support, which makes everything so much easier, and then we can lean into that, and we don't have to it's not all on us. We're one part, but we're part of something like greater than us as well, and when we do our part, then the rest can kind of fall into place as well.
And I also think, apart from actual programs and teachings that have helped me, it's also just the simple thing of finding the right support for me, finding a community in which this work is the normal way of doing things. Finding like-minded people, if that is through a course like yours or mine, or if that is through an internet community somehow, or a physical community if you're that lucky. It doesn't really matter, but having that kind of support, someone who sees you and knows what you're trying to do and can reflect back to you, when you're when you're successful in all the ways that you are successful, that you don't see yourself, and that you can ask practical questions, just how did you do this, and have you stumbled into this challenge, and so on. And it's, I mean, I don't think anyone can do it without that kind of support. So that is one of the first thing that I recommend to people is start finding those, your tribe, the people where you feel like you belong, and who knows what you're trying to do, and find that support. Start sort of connecting with people that you admire or that you resonate with. If it's through Instagram, or it doesn't really matter, just find your people, because that will be like fuel for you. It will have a very sort of concrete, practical impact on the way you are able to do your work. So
Yeah,
it's so important.
Yeah, I think for me that's been the number one thing, to have the right support. And even if that's just one person to start with, or like a really small group, it's fine, as long as they're the right people and they really get you. Because that's just, it's amazing in all those moments when you wobble because you're right before taking that big leap, or things are going really well. But sometimes when things are going really well, you may need a bit of support then too. It's not always that easy, and not always the way it seems on the outside. So I think that's super important, because it's such a particular path and we don't always have those people in our real lives. Even if we're surrounded by people who love us, they may not know how to support us in this particular thing. So having that is, it's just amazing. And I encourage anyone to just reach out to people you really resonate with online. That's how I started it, because I was kind of waiting for someone to find me and invite me, and that didn't happen. You know,
it's not likely to happen.
Well, usually it doesn't, right? And I was waiting and waiting. I thought, what am I waiting for? Maybe I can just reach out to people, or maybe I can create a small group. And I did. And then these groups have changed and evolved over time. And then I started doing programs, because I wanted to offer other people that too. Because sometimes it's not even, sometimes you don't even need the content. You just need that community, the really loving community. And I find that because you receive so much from it, and then you can give as well what you've learned. So it's that kind of really win-win environment for everyone who knows. And that's super important. Okay, well, wonderful. I so love talking to you, and there's so many nuggets of wisdom, and so much to kind of come back.
Could have gone on forever, I have a feeling. but let's not exhaust people here. So.
So where can we find you, Anna? Is there anything that you're working on right now that you want to share? I love your website and everything. It's like walking into a different world. Stepping into a magical place.
Thank you. Well, you can find all my writing and sign up for my newsletter and get access to my creative library, where I keep all my tools for creatives who want to get busy with their dreams. You can find it on my website, and I know you will link to it beneath the video here, but it's also annalovind.com simply. And then what I'm working on right now is the relaunch of the Creative Doer, which is my online program for creative dreamers, and it's due to launch on September 30th with a brand new lesson on creativity and money, which is
interesting topic.
I enjoy working with it so much. So that's what's on the horizon for me right now. And, exciting times.
Yes, very exciting times. So do check out Anna's website, and you can find her on Instagram and Facebook as well, and just all her sharings, and look out for the program when it's coming out. Money is such an interesting topic. So I'm sharing a bit about my new program called Embrace Your Purpose, which is kind of interesting because it's all about soul's work and how we can expand that into the world, and not just by expanding the reach of our work, but also kind of deepening our connection with our work, so that it really can come from the inside and out, because it's such a Yeah, it's just more sustainable, and we have access to much more energy and power when we do it that way. And it's interesting because I have 2 guest teachers this round. So it's a 6-month-long program. And the first guest teacher is my friend Laura Waldman, who's the thing is money and energy work.
Oh yeah, that's right. I love that. But we can't skip the money thing. It's so important.
Yeah, and sometimes as like intuitives, creatives, we're like, oh, money, let's just, flow through it. But we do need money. And I find that because I've been doing she has a program just on money for like 12 weeks, and we just finished up at the beginning of the summer, and it's been so profound. But I do encourage anyone, to work with people who actually have a more experience on the deeper aspects of money, like I'm sure you do, Anna, as well, where there's a bit more than just putting it on your vision board and imagining it, but like really what's coming up when you start to uncover the layers of stuff, because it can be really, really deep inner work, and very interesting to see the patterns and how we see things. And I know that a lot of people who are creative and intuitive, they are super generous and very giving, but when it comes to receiving, it's a different ballgame. And especially when it comes to money, because somehow it's not supposed to be compatible. But I mean, when you do kind of connect in with what making more money in your business means for you and how that feels and what it allows you to do, it's a really beautiful, expansive feeling, I find, and lots more freedom. And it's, and it doesn't mean you have to keep all the money to yourself and be afraid to lose it. It's more like, what does it allow you to create or, experience? And you don't have to feel that something's lacking just because you're asking for more. Goodness, no. Money is a kind of, it's energy, but it's a very potent kind of energy. It's so much to do with power. Yes.
Owning our power. And that is something that creatives are not always, and particularly creative women. Women in general, I think, are not always comfortable with owning their own power. So working with money can uncover all sorts of issues around that. It's never just about the money when you're doing money work. It's always deeper layers and belief systems and so on beneath it. And it can really make or break you if you're in business. If you have these old money beliefs that are keeping you back, that are not allowing you to receive, that have made money into some kind of enemy, you're not going to be able to create a sustainable, successful business from that point. No. So doing this money work is crucial. And it's, it is not in opposition to creative work, and it's not in opposition to spiritual work. It's right in there.
Yeah.
Very, very juicy, very profound. I love it. I think it's so.
It's very interesting when you start dipping your toes into it, because I was a bit like, oh, this is a bit shallow. And I'm like, oh, actually, it's not.
No.
And it can be a really powerful ally in all the work that we do. And instead of waiting for someone else to share their wealth and change the world, we can actually do that.
Exactly. And own that responsibility. We need to grow up around money, and we need to claim that power, because others are doing it, and they may not be doing it from a healthy point of view. Or from a compassionate point of view. Obviously, when we look around in the world, that's the case today. So we need to own it and use it for good in the world, the way that I know that we want to. But we can't if we sort of renounce the money thing.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you see everything that's connected to, like power and all those things. It's great. So it's definitely one of those topics that you can dive into, and I think it's never ending, because there's always more to explore. So anyone who's into creative, intuitive healing work, any type of that kind of work, like really do your money work, because it's going to be so helpful. And I think that's something you just can't get around it, because it's part of life as well. So so Laura will be teaching us about that, and then I have my friend Lisa's coming in as well and doing something about integrating shadow work into how we show up authentically. So not just showing up with the nice polished pieces of us.
Oh yeah.
So that's really good. I'm very much looking forward to this, the masterclass that she's doing.
Yeah.
And so it's basically 6 months, and there will be monthly live calls. They're more like monthly sacred gatherings, guided meditations, and kind of any questions that come up. So it's, healing work and channeling. It's just whatever comes up for us in that moment. So yeah, I love it.
Wow. It's going to be an amazing journey.
Thank you. I'm really looking forward to it. It's so powerful to meet like this, I find, in these groups, and it's so nurturing for everyone. And I grow as much as I hope that everyone who signs up grows through this work. And then 2 one-on-one sessions with me during the 6 months.
Yeah.
And what else? Yeah, and then just the mastermind, right? Because we'll be sharing our journeys, and it's like a mix of practical business stuff with the energy work, with the accountability, and actually, so if anyone's like working on a sales page or an offer, we can have a look at that and see what's going on, and do some clearings, and just all the stuff that comes up when you're on a journey like this, because there's always going to be stuff coming up, and being in those spaces instead of waiting and kind of doing it on your own, because it just takes much longer, I find, and it can wear us down a bit if we do it too long, too much on our own. So this is just to give, I guess I'm just putting in all of the stuff that I use for my business and that I love.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm passing it on.
Exactly. So there will be more information about Anna and her program underneath this video, and my program as well, and my work. And you can find me on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and all those things. And there will be more interviews as well, because I'm interviewing all my favorite people. There's so much inspiration I find in hearing each other's stories and seeing that we're not that different. We're just on a different, in a different place on our paths. But it's not like you get to a point where you've figured it all out. It's more like you just kind of keep doing the work and trusting more and more. And then the experience from doing things for a while can help, I find, with the trusting, but it's kind of, it's an ongoing journey.
Yeah.
So thank you so much Anna, for taking the time.
Thank you. I enjoyed speaking to you so much.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone listening, and do reach out to us, and hopefully we'll connect again soon.